What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. In this video today, I am ranking the 8 movies I saw at the movie theater or at home on streaming in the month of October. Starting off in spot number 8, without a doubt, without question, I had to put The Mousetrap that I streamed on Peacock. I am not going to talk about this movie for very long because it really isn't necessary. This was an absolute horrible film, bottom of the barrel, horrible writing, abysmal acting. It was just so awful all the way around. I really didn't find any redeeming qualities about this movie at all. It's about a guy that all of a sudden decides to start killing people with a Mickey Mouse head. And the Mickey Mouse head, the mask, the head, the helmet, whatever you want to call it, looked like it was a grade school art project. It didn't look very well done at all. It was just so cheesy, no pun intended, because I am talking about a mouse, and I gave this movie a half star. You do not need to see The Mousetrap. It is so not worth it. The movie is only an hour and like 28 minutes long, and nothing really starts happening in the movie until about an hour into the film. It is really boring. And then when kills start happening, the majority of the kills are off screen. You don't even see them. The ones that you do see, which I think are 2 or 3, they're okay. And I think that's the reason why I gave the half star. But if it wasn't for those kills, The Mousetrap would have gotten 0 stars. So The Mousetrap, I'm not a fan. I will never watch this movie again, and I cannot recommend it to you. Do not waste your time. In 7th place, I am so disappointed with this movie. It is Your Monster. Now, I was really looking forward to watching this film because it stars Melissa Barrera, and the entire vibe of the movie that I was getting was kind of like a modern day Beauty and the Beast, which could have been interesting. I had certain expectations, maybe that's my fault, but the movie just didn't go in the direction I thought it was going to. Now, the main reason I wanted to go and see the movie was because of Melissa Barrera. I'm becoming a fan of hers. I just think because of the Scream movies and with Abigail, she's really starting to stand out to me. And so when it came to Your Monster, I was just really curious about the film. Now, I will say, if you haven't seen Your Monster yet, there's a lot of musical elements in the movie. It's not a straight up musical, but there's a lot of singing going on. Just to let you know that in case you haven't seen the movie and that's not really your cup of tea, you may not enjoy the film. Now, I thought that the main part of the movie was going to focus on Melissa Barrera and her developing relationship with this monster that she randomly finds in her closet that apparently has been there her entire life. And that's something with the script I had a little bit of an issue with, because obviously this monster has a history of being in her closet. This is something that's revealed later on in the movie, like he's always been there. But there really was no reflection of that. It was kind of just thrown in as an afterthought. That's what I thought. It just wasn't really explored. Did he always have feelings for her? It's just one of those situations where it just wasn't fully explained. So in this movie, I'm sorry, I think I skipped over what the movie is about. Pretty much what's going on in Your Monster is you have Melissa Barrera, who has a cancer diagnosis and she's dealing with treatment. She does have a boyfriend, and prior to the diagnosis, they have a great relationship. They are working on this musical project together. She is going to be the star and everything is great. But then her world falls apart because of this diagnosis. And as she's going through treatment, her boyfriend dumps her, which is like the worst thing that anyone can do. So she's obviously heartbroken. She's also going through this medical diagnosis and treatment. So obviously she's depressed. She goes home to her mother's house where she obviously grew up, but she doesn't live there now, but that's where she goes because she broke up with her boyfriend dumped her, and she has nowhere else to go. So she goes to her mother's house where she grew up, and randomly one day, she discovers this monster in her closet. And over the course of the movie, where do you think it goes? They start hanging out together. He comes across as a little bit mean and nasty and wants her out in 2 weeks, but over the course of time, they start hanging out, getting to know each other, building that relationship, and developing feelings. And that's where I thought the movie was going to stay and focus in on, with the relationship between Melissa Barrera and the beast or the monster. But there's so many other things happening in this film, because you have the ex-boyfriend situation. Melissa Barrera still wants to be a part of the show that she helped create. It's like there's too many things going on in this movie. But what I really did not like was the very end of the film. And if you cannot stick the landing with a movie, it's not going to sit well with me. And I just did not like this ending. Some people may like it because, it's getting revenge, and that's all I'm going to say. Extreme revenge. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But in reality, the consequences of her actions for Melissa Barrera are not good. And it's not like we're getting a sequel to this film. So you're kind of left with this lingering question of what is now going to happen to her. And the movie just ends. That's it. There's really no conclusion. So I was disappointed, very disappointed with Your Monster. I just expected something else. At the core of the movie, don't get me wrong, it does have a great message, which the monster is always trying to give Melissa Barrera's character some self-esteem, because she really doesn't have any. She's very clingy to that ex-boyfriend. And so the monster is always trying to tell her, you're worth more than this. You are great. Being positive. He's kind of giving her like positive affirmations or just positive encouragement, saying, you deserve more. You're a great person. You don't need this. And that's a great message to have. But there was just so much other things happening in this movie. And then you have the music going on and the dancing and the play. It was just a lot packed into about 90 minutes. So this one was definitely disappointing. That's why it lands at number 7. Spot number 6 goes to a movie I streamed on Hulu called Hold Your Breath. Now, I was randomly looking for something to watch, and Sarah Paulson is in this film, and she pretty much always delivers, I do have to say. So that's kind of what pulled me over to this movie and had me stream it. Now, the basic concept of what happens in Hold Your Breath is that the film takes place, I believe, in the 1930s, and there is a massive dust storm happening throughout the entire film. And Sarah Paulson and her 2 children, unfortunately, her youngest daughter has passed away, so she's very much mourning that loss still. But she has 2 other children with her, 2 other daughters. Her husband, I believe, goes off to find work right in the beginning of the movie. So she's alone with her 2 daughters on their piece of land. They're extremely isolated. There's really no one around them. Like I said, early 1930s. So you don't have neighbors. And this massive dust storm is happening. And in her heart, she believes that there's some kind of sinister presence that is around them, that wants to taint them and get to them. I enjoyed the concept of the movie. I thought it was going to go in a different direction, though. I'm not really sure where it was going to go. But where the movie took us, I just wasn't 100% happy with. And I felt like it kind of took a long time to get there, which is weird saying that because the movie is really only an hour and 34 minutes long. That's not a long time. It's not like a 2.5 hour movie. It didn't stretch, but it was kind of boring. There were very much low parts in the middle. where I was like, where are we going with this? Is this going to start happening? It felt like all the action, the quote unquote action in the movie, was in like the last 20 minutes, all crammed in. And I would have preferred if it was evenly dispersed throughout the entire film. I will say it was good at building tension, but it took too long for like the ultimate reveal and everything that was really going on. So it did have some mystery to it. And, you know, Sarah Paulson delivered a great performance as always, but I really feel that where this movie was let down was with the writing. So the writing was at fault here. But I know it's a film I will never watch again. I don't have to. This was a one and done situation. Coming in at number 5. Number 5 is Salem's Lot, and this is the version that recently debuted over on Max. So I know there's various versions of Salem's Lot, but this is the first time I've ever been experienced to this story. Did that make sense? This was my first time watching any kind of interpretation of Salem's Lot. There we go. That was better. I have never seen anything prior, but I was curious about this movie because I love vampires. Vampires are kind of my thing. So if there's any kind of new vampire film, I do want to check it out. So that was the reason why I wanted to watch Salem's Lot. This was a solid 3-star movie. There really wasn't anything super fantastic about the film, but it wasn't the worst thing that I've ever seen. So it was right in the middle, 3-star. I enjoyed the film, great cast of characters. Some I didn't really care for, but for the most part, I cared about the characters. I wanted, oh, what's that one? That little boy, oh, Mark, I think it started with an M. I loved him. He was so crafty. He was like he believed in like the spooky stuff, and he had like all the figurines in his room. If you've seen Salem's Lot, then you know who I'm talking about, but I believe his name started with an M, either Mike or Mark. He was my favorite character beyond. He was like 11 years old and he knew exactly what to do. Some of the adults were walking around like not knowing how to breathe, but this kid at 11 years old has no fear in going up against the head vampire. I mean, that's incredible. That was incredible to me. So I loved that character. So speaking of the head vampire, that's where the movie kind of, I guess, went down for me, because when I'm watching a movie about vampires, that is what I want to see. And I felt like didn't really get a lot of that. Now, we got the vampires when the townspeople were turning, but I wanted to see more of the head vampire. We didn't really get to see him until like the very end, and it was very quick. So that was like my main complaint about Salem's Lot. I'm not sure if that is I'm not sure if that's how the story goes in every single interpretation of this story. Maybe it is. I don't know. But I don't have anything else to compare it to. So that was like where I was disappointed. But Salem's Lot was good. It was fine. It was solid. I don't necessarily need to watch this version again, but I'm not opposed to watching a different Salem's Lot. Like I said, anything with vampires, I'm in. All right, we are halfway done. We are cruising through. Fourth place goes to Catt Lake. I think that's how you say it. Catt Lake, that debuted on Max. Now, this movie, I believe, was produced by M. Night Shyamalan. So when I saw that, I knew right away, okay, this movie is going to have some kind of twist, some kind of reveal. So as I'm sitting here watching this film, pretty much there's 2 storylines happening at the same time that are not connected, at least not yet. These 2 storylines are happening, and for the majority of the movie, I had no idea what was going on. Like, I was so confused. I'm sitting there and I'm watching this and I'm scratching my head and I'm thinking, when is this movie going to make sense? And then about 20 minutes prior to the end of the film, something occurs where everything just clicks into place, and then everything makes sense. Everything that you were questioning, because I had a lot of questions. A lot of questions. I was saying it out loud to myself. I was watching this movie alone, and I'm saying, what is happening? Why is she doing this? Why is he doing this? Why is this happening? Where's this girl? I was just so confused as to what was going on in this movie. And then, in pure, true Shyamalan fashion, granted, he didn't direct the movie, he didn't write it, he only produced it, but he probably had a heavy hand in what was happening here. With that revelation, the twist, everything fell into place, and it's like, oh, then you get it, then you get it, then you appreciate it, and everything is wrapped up super quickly. Because I was like, wow, we only have like 15 minutes left of this movie, and there's still questions that have to be answered. And they pretty much did it for the most part. I don't think I had any lingering questions, but because of that reveal, that's the main reason why Catt Lake went up to number 4 on my list, because I was like, wow, because I love a twist. I love a twist. I love a surprise where you don't see it coming. And for some reason, I just did not see this twist coming. So when it was revealed, ultimately, I really enjoyed it. So that was a great watch. I enjoyed Catt Lake, but I don't need to watch it again. It was a one-time watch. Top three. Okay. Third place. I may get some comments about this, but my third place choice, surprisingly enough, is Joker Folie à Deux. And this is because I did not hate this movie as much as the majority of other people. Now, I do want to say I understand where a lot of the hate comes from. Trust me, I do. But I think the reason why I appreciated the film just a little bit more is because the entire musical element of this film, I did not mind. I can appreciate music and musicals and things like that because I was a pure choir and theater nerd geek in high school and also in college. Theater was my major in college, okay? So when it comes to musicals, I do not mind them. So the entire musical side of that movie, I embraced it. I embraced it for what it was. It didn't bother me. So the 3.5 star is pretty much because I gave it 3.5 stars, by the way. That's why I said that. The 3.5 star for Joker 2, I appreciated the musical element. Joaquin Phoenix's performance as Arthur Fleck was just as good as the first movie. Lady Gaga, I mean, she didn't do anything that really stood out to me, but that's not necessarily her fault because she did have a lot of her scenes cut from that movie. And I really would like to see those scenes incorporated back in to see what else she brought to the film, because maybe one of those moments would have really stood out. So that is unfortunate that Lady Gaga was kind of just there, like she didn't bring the oomph, like the factor. I don't know. So I was let down with that. She gave a decent performance, but I don't think it's her fault because the way the script was written, she really worked with what she had, and she did that to the best of her ability. And as far as technical wise with this movie, I mean, the cinematography is right on point. Again, the score, creepy, just as the first one, and all those elements were nice. Production design, everything technical about this movie was there. It was the script. It was the script, and it's just the direction that Todd Phillips decided to go in that was just so 180 from the first movie. I can understand where the majority of fans were extremely upset by this film and the direction he chose to go in. I get it. I really, really do. But I just did not hate on this movie as much as others. And I'm really curious how my reaction to the film is going to be upon rewatching it, because I really do want to rewatch this movie. I do want to watch it with my mom. I told her about it, briefly, and she's very curious about Joker too, because she absolutely loved the first movie as well. So I want to see her reaction. I was disappointed. I was disappointed with Joker 2 because this was my number one most anticipated movie of the entire, I lost my breath, of the entire year. It was my most anticipated movie. So for this film to not, be on the level of the first film was a letdown. It really was. But out of all the movies that I saw, it's at number 3. It is at number 3, which is a decent place considering what the movie is. All right, second place, the runner-up is called A Different Man, starring Sebastian Stan. So this was a smaller film, also possibly an award season contender, and that's the reason why I want to check it out. And it was only going to be at my theater for, I think, one more day. And I had free time on that day. So I made sure that I went to the theater to check this movie out. Now, if you have no idea anything about this movie, the basics of A Different Man, you have Sebastian Stan, who is severely disfigured in this film. And right in the beginning of the movie, he's very shy. He has like growths on his face. That's the disfigurement. And so obviously he's very shy. He's not outgoing. He doesn't talk to a lot of people, because people are scared of him, because anything that people don't understand, we're automatically afraid of. And so because of that, he doesn't put himself out there. He's very introverted. You can tell there's a woman he meets in the beginning of the movie, and you can tell that he's starting to have feelings for her a little bit because she's so nice to him, but he's not going to do anything about that because he knows that, or he thinks, she would never want to be with him. And what happens is that Sebastian Stan, having all these growths on his face, he goes and has this this medical trial that he agrees to be a part of, where they could possibly cure or get rid of some of the growths on his face. And what ends up happening is that they all fall off. Every single bump that's on his face is gone. They all fall off. I mean, that would be amazing, right? If that could happen in real life. I mean, but this is a movie, obviously. But that's incredible. Every single thing falls off of his face, and underneath is Sebastian Stan. Handsome as heck, okay? So then he has to acclimate back into society with this handsome face, not really knowing how to navigate his life, because for so long he's probably thought of himself as a monster, but now that he's handsome, he doesn't really know what to do with that. But what ends up happening is that there's another person, I believe the actor is named Adam Pearson, who is so fantastic in this movie. I loved him. He also has the same condition as Sebastian Stan's character, but he embraces it. He knows what he has, but he has the confidence. He has the confidence, even though he has the growths all over his face. He is funny. He's confident. He enters a room. Everyone pays attention to him. No one thinks of him as being different. And so therefore, Sebastian Stan gets extremely jealous of this other person, because why couldn't he be happy with how he was? And I love the message of the entire film, that if you are confident, if you are comfortable in your own skin, you can achieve anything. And I love that. I absolutely love that. So this film, I thought, again, had a great message, fantastic performances from Sebastian Stan and also Adam Pearson. I really want Adam Pearson to be nominated for Best Supporting Actor. I'm not really sure if it's going to happen at the Oscars, but I am rooting for him at the Golden Globes, possibly SAG, Critics' Choice, I don't know. But I just really want him to be recognized because I thought he was amazing in this movie. It's not the most rewatchable film. I will say that. It may be a one-time watch for you, but I really enjoyed the movie. And if you haven't seen it, I do highly recommend it. So now I am down to my number one film from the month of October. And I have to look over. I blanked for a second. It's Terrifier 3, people. Terrifier 3 was absolutely the best film that I saw last month by far. Now, just by looking at me, I'm sure you want to automatically assume she's a Terrifier fan. I'm not like a hardcore fan, but I can appreciate the Terrifier movies because they really do just bring the horror genre to another level. I mean, the gore and the kills in all of these movies are just insane. So, and it just seems like with every single one of these films, it increases and it gets crazier and more outlandish and it is just nutso. And Terrifier 3 delivers. So it's so well done. If you want blood and gore and that carnage candy when you're sitting there to watch Terrifier 3, you are satisfied. Trust me. Now, I still love Terrifier 2 though, and I'm kind of like torn in between the two of which one is the better film. But I really enjoyed how Terrifier 3 was not as long as Terrifier 2 because Terrifier 2 was like 2.5 hours. I thought that was a little bit overextending it, but Terrifier 3 I thought had a great pace to it. It did not feel like the movie was over 2 hours because I felt like, I think it was right around like 2 hours and 15 minutes, something like that. It was definitely shorter than the second movie, but I did not feel the runtime during Terrifier 3. Whereas during the second movie, I was kind of feeling it. And there were parts about that movie I was like, why is this in here? We could have cut this, could have cut that. There was nothing that I would cut from Terrifier 3. They really utilized every single part of that film. Now, is the movie controversial just a little bit? Yes, it is, because we're dealing with deaths of children right in the beginning of the movie, also in the middle of the film, but it's done in a way where it's not graphic. It's like more of like suggested than graphic. I mean, it's not like you're seeing it directly happen in front of you. It's off camera. That I can deal with. I feel like with Terrifier 3, they knew exactly where the line was to not cross over like into total taboo territory, because if they did, in particular with children, that would have been a little bit too much. They knew right where to stop, which is good. And I'm looking forward to seeing where the future of the Terrifier franchise is going to go. If you've seen the movie, you know they've clearly set up Terrifier 4 in such a way we know where the storyline is going to go. And I'm looking forward. And I hope they take their time with that fourth movie. We don't need to crank out another Terrifier for next year. I like how they're building this world. We have questions. We're getting answers to those questions. It's like peeling back an onion, and you have so many layers of what's happening with the story and lore and past history of these characters and what is going on. And what's great about this franchise is that we are getting the answers to those questions over the course of time in every single movie. And I just think that's so genius because they're just planning everything out so meticulously. I love that. I think it's great. And plus, the overall selling point about Terrifier 3 is it's during Christmas time. I thought that was a great choice. Great, fantastic choice. It also brings in Art the Clown dressing up as Santa Claus and having that whole element and his bag of tricks. It just makes sense. Everything worked with Terrifier 3. So I really enjoyed Terrifier 3 much more than I thought I was going to. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the franchise. So that's my thoughts, my ranking about every single brand new film I watched in the month of October. Comment down below and let me know your personal October ranking. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you leave, and I'll see you next time.